Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy on the road around Georgia. Let me see where my trusty co-hosts are this morning. Let's see. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Tamara. Here's my
How are
Tamara.
you?
I'm doing good. Here's my T-shirt. Tamara.
Yay.
So try to get that into the picture, but
No worries, David. I'm out here. I'm in Vidalia, Georgia, David. There's a big festival going on where as soon as I drove in, David, there was people waiting to check my temperature, making sure I had a mask. You know, they had their hand sanitizer. They were making sure that everybody that's at this festival was safe. So I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do a live stream. But before I go out, and I'll just pop back in, I'm going to bring in Miss Nina, who's going to join us, and Miss Robbie. Let's see where they are. Let's see. Miss Nina. Good morning, Nina.
Good morning, Tamara. Good morning, David.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you.
Yes, great to see you, Nina. So we're going to bring in Miss Robbie. Let's see where Miss Robbie is. Good morning.
Morning, Miss Tamara.
Good morning.
Yes, Robbie. Can you guys see Robbie? I don't see her.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay,
you're
good.
in the sticks.
I'm having some issues on my end, but David, you and Nina, I'm gonna let you guys take the wheel. I'm gonna bring in our guest this morning, Mr. Mark Bynum. He is gonna tell his story about his family.
Hey, good morning.
Hi,
good morning.
Mark.
I'm great. How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm well.
I'm great. My name is Mark Bynum. I am the owner of Harris Hand Barber College, and I'm glad to be here to meet you guys.
Yeah, same here.
Yes.
Mark,
Yes,
it sounds like a fascinating story about your family history. Are you gonna, tell us more? Tamara has given us a little bit of information that your great grandfather was a sharecropper barber that was hired out without pay.
Something like that. Barbering has been in my family since 1893. It goes back to my grandfather. My grandfather was the late Nathaniel Harris Sr., and his father was Shorter Harris. So doing my research and trying to find out my family's history and things, it's very interesting that a lot of stuff that you learn. Back in those days when we had barbers, they would actually lease barbers out to different plantations to cut other people's hair. Barbering has also been a notable profession for a very, very, very long time. We made a lot of money, so they basically leased us out, and the money that we made, we used that money to help take care of our family. Some barbers got very wealthy, even back in those days, where they even bought themselves out of slavery, and then made enough money to either buy their brother or their wife out of slavery also.
I've never heard this story before.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's very interesting. It's a lot to. It's as you have to. A lot of it is taught very like mouth to ear. You got to kind of research and talk to like some of your older people. And like I say, I'm a fifth generation barber. Barbering has been in my family for a very long time. So for me to learn a lot of the information that I know, I have to go and talk to them and kind of find out exactly from whence we came. My family, my grandfather, Nathaniel Harris, he and my uncle, which was Renda Hill, they put two professions together that has been together for a very long time. My grandfather had a barbershop that was on the bottom of a funeral home, and my uncle ran the funeral home that was on top. So they put two professions together that will never go out of business. People are always going to die, and people are always going to need a haircut. So I kind of grabbed that torch and kind of took my grandfather's name, and I've been running with it ever since.
That's an amazing family legacy. Sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, even after you're dead, you need a haircut to be presentable
Right.
when you're laid out, right? I mean,
You're right.
That's quite a combination.
Yes, sir. So are there any questions that you guys will have for me?
Where exactly are you located? I know Tamara's campaigning on the South Georgia. So how did y'all connect?
I am located. I met Tamara at a Bronner Brothers show. She was always there advocating, doing things for us in the hair care industry. I met with her, and I just happened to call her one day, and she said, "Well, hey," I was telling her all the things that I've done down for the city of Grantville, and she came down to see me. We're located at 9 and 11 LaGrange Street, Grantville, Georgia, 30220. It's the last exit in Coweta County. And I've come there. Grantville has always been something like a dormant town. So I've come there and I developed Grantville. I opened a barber shop, which later we've turned it into a barber school. We also have a nail salon there that I've given to my daughter. It's K&K's Nail Salon. And we have a DUI school in this same location. So we just down here developing Grantville, Georgia. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, and my mother has a event center called Miss B's Wings and Seafood. You can come and get some of the best wings and seafood this south side of Atlanta. So we're here developing this area in Grantville, Georgia, and just having a good time doing it.
I'm so curious. I'm actually involved in real estate in city of Atlanta proper, and the real estate trends are definitely going, below 20 and south, as well as southwest and southeast. But the growth is south. The growth where people can make the most equity. Right. And I'm fascinated from your family's history and perspective. How would you describe the difference on how your family's living, who had an opportunity for economic advancement, and how other people who did not have that opportunity, where they're at, as opposed to your family, and how it impacts generational wealth and even just psyche?
Well, I kind of figured the same thing. My grandfather, he cut hair in a wheelchair for a long time. Ever since I've been born, I've never seen my grandfather walk. And he raised 5 kids cutting for $3 and $5 a head. And we would go into the barbershop, and he just kind of taught us. I have 4 other cousins, and everybody would have their day to work in the barbershop. So we're doing that at the end of the day of running water for hot shaves, doing different things. He would give you a little money at the end of the day. And it didn't take me long to catch on to say, hey, you can make money doing this. So I had cousins that they didn't really enjoy it a lot, but I did. So I kind of grabbed the torch and just kind of ran with it. As far as you talking about generational wealth, I think even the Bible says you have to set up a storage for your children and also your children's children. So he gave us a dying trade that that you could always make money. He gave us a dying trade, and we just took it and just kind of nurtured it. I did 13 years corporate, and I didn't like what I was doing on the corporate end. It's like I had corporate handcuffs, and I said, well, managing 3 of the largest companies in the world, Walmart, Target, and PetSmart, I said, well, hey, I can take my grandfather's trade and I can make real money. I mean, he did it, so why can't I? I put a plan together. I already knew how to cut hair, so I put a plan together. I got my barber's license. Went back a couple of years later, got my instructor's license. And then I opened the school. I wanted to instruct others and teach others and give them a chance to say, hey, you can go out and be your own boss. You don't have to sit and, become a part of the corporate hustle and bustle every day. You can kind of come out and be your own boss. And with being a barber, it's more than just being a barber. You're an icon for the community. You're a community leader. You know, people look up to you. So that's what I took from it. I saw that I could help people, get them into a different facet. Some of those that didn't have a hand up in life, I could be that hand up and kind of be that light and that beacon, you know, to kind of help motivate, cultivate, and mentor and help get them where they need to be. And that's what I've done.
Good for you. That's excellent. I mean, this is a great story. I'm so glad you connected with Tamara, and I'm not surprised it was at the Browner Brothers show, but it's a great testimony to what people can do with stability in the family. And on the opposite, and kudos to you for giving back. Like, I completely relate. I grew up, my family grew up in the South Bronx. My parents had a bodega. So I grew up watching business. I was allowed behind the counter. You know, I knew how to make change and, you know, serve people. And my mom taught me that. And it's like you said, it's a family legacy, and you learn things from very young, and just because you've seen it. And oftentimes I see people looking down on other people because they haven't, you know, been as successful, but oftentimes those people don't have the backgrounds that you had or that I had. And so you have to give back, because if you don't, you know, it's incumbent on a community. So kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
No problem. Well, I enjoy my job. It's a lot of people, you know, growing up in the barbershop, you know, you had a lot of different people, from politicians to morticians to school teachers. You know, you kind of had a lot of people to look up to, people that you talk to, got a lot of information. And I think that's something that we don't have a lot of now. We don't have a lot of role models in the community where kids are approachable. You know, I told them I wore a suit and tie for 13 years. And now that I'm a corporate CEO, I'm never going to put on a suit and tie again, simply because I want to be approachable. I mean, it's kids that are out there. Some people get intimidated by there, but it's kids out there, they want to hand up and they want to learn. It's just they have no one to learn from. And I think that if you can always be approachable and meet them on their level, no matter what level they are, they just need grooming. The same way that my parents and my grandfathers and my uncle, the late Benny Frank Harris, groomed me. I mean, we can groom them. Right now, I have an auntie, Virginia Hill, at Hill's Funeral Home. She's running her father's legacy. My uncle, I'm being taught right now by her to run a funeral home, again, a dying trade. So it's a each one teach one. And I think if we can get back to the trade system, I manage 3 of the largest companies in the world, and I only have a GED. I never went to college.
I love your story. Thank you for being so open about it. We have our national Egberto Willis, and he's gonna love your story too. Egberto.
No Mark Bynum, brother, I love you, man. I love you, brother. Let me just say, just put it that way. And I've got to talk to you, because that is the story that we need to get out, instead of all these other stories that don't go there. Hey, thank you for bringing me on early, Robbie. I just wanted to talk to him directly and say thank you for that story. It is more powerful than. I mean, I'm just in.
That was Tamara. Mark, you're going national now.
Wow.
That's our national correspondent.
Man, we got to talk, Mark. Wow. But anyhow, guys, it's great being here. David, Robbie, Nina, Mark. Where's Tamara? She's not here today?
She's on the campaign trail in South Georgia with a bad signal.
Oh, she has a bad signal. Okay. Well, anyhow, my national part today is, David, what's going on with your people in Congress? David, why aren't you having them working, David? They're killing us. I want everybody who gets a chance to go check out, go to, I just have to do a little thing. Go to egbertowillis.com when you get a chance and see what I wrote up on what Ali Velshi had to say yesterday. Ali Velshi had the ultimate piece on what our economic system is really doing to us all.
Right. Can you be a little more specific, Egberto, for people who are not sure what you're talking about?
Sure. Right now, as you know, the reason I was just hitting up David is because the Senate is refused, or rather the Congress, together with the the presidency is not given a stimulus into our economy that is needed to keep it afloat. We have a pandemic that's going on. When you have pandemics, the government comes in and the government says, we want business to stop so that everybody, or most businesses stop so that everybody can stay home. The government is asking us to do something so that we can take control so we don't all die. That's basically how it goes. Now, in the process of doing that, the government should do things to make us whole. For those who they ask to stay home, they should make those people whole. That $600 a month that they were giving the people for unemployment compensation is equivalent to a $15 an hour wage over 40 days. Now, people complain about that is stopping other people from going to work. That's not really the case, as studies have proven. What it has done is it has helped the economy, because some people were making more by getting $600 a week than they were getting on their jobs, to which I say, that was a good thing. It forces the private sector to pay people more if they want them to take the risk. But I go one step further. I say we should also, those people who are working should be getting the $600 a month as well as hazard pay, because those who have to go out there and work are putting themselves at risk more so than us who have the ability to stay behind a computer or that who doesn't have to interact with the public. Now, Ali Velshi goes on and said the reason we are having problems doing this is that our economy for several years, for several decades, have been very efficient in taking, I don't know if any of us here are rich. I'm not. I don't know if anybody here is a millionaire or whatever, but I'm not. But maybe Bynum is now that he's a corporate executive.
Not yet. We're working on it.
Define rich. Like rich, wealthy.
Actually, rich, unless you have $5 million, you're not really.
No, you're not rich.
Yeah. Okay. But anyhow, then so it turns out that Ali Velshi, and he said it so eloquently. In fact, I wrote a piece about it. He saw it and then he retweeted it. But what Ali Velshi said was the following. He said, we have been very efficient in transferring your money, our money, the regular people's money, to the wealthy. And how do we do that? We pay low wages, and because we're able to pay low wages, those people who pay us low wages can get richer because they're getting a bigger cut of the pie. They are when we don't get the money that we can afford, we lose our homes, and when we lose our homes, the government has policies that give them low interest or no interest loans, and this is in Robbie's domain. That then they can come and buy up all these homes from all these people who have foreclosed, and then they rent it back to us. So they took our capital and then rent back the homes that they stole from us with our, again, we can never get ahead. And he so eloquently put that all into the ethos. So I wrote a little piece and I said, thank you, Ali Velshi. I only have one problem with everything that you said. He said, I am a capitalist, but it doesn't have to be this way. I said you should have left off the first two words.
I am, or what are the first two words?
Oh, well, first three words. You're right, Robbie. Robbie, why are you so exact, Robbie?
I'm an English major. I mean, I think your point to David, I'm sorry, your point, you're spot on, Egberto. And I was fascinated when Mark earlier talked about quote unquote corporate handcuffs. Mm-hmm. And what you've just described is with the lack of living wage and the asset acquisition is kind of a modern day manifest destiny, or a modern day pilfering of assets, whether it's through corporate bureaucracy or former treaties that weren't honored, to basically occupy and the loss of generational wealth and acquire assets. It's thievery, really, but it's legalized thievery.
I call it antiseptic slavery. It's antiseptic slavery. Slaves used to look like me and Mark. Okay, That's what slavery looked like. The new capitalism was able to do is make Nina, David, not become who Mark and I are without realizing that's who they are. In other words, they could still look at Mark and I and say, at least I am not black, so I have some sort of a thing on top of that. But what the reality is, and you know I do this, Robbie, because you've been on my show several times. My statement is we have to unite the ghettos, the barrios, and Appalachia, meaning white folk, black folk, and Latinos. It's a stereotype, a horrendous stereotype, but it jolts people fast enough for them to say, oh, yeah, maybe so.
Well, it's the plantation capitalism that, yeah, it is. And, you know, we're going to differ on this, like Berto and David and I differ on it, but he's waiting to say something. I'll go after him. David, go ahead.
No, I'm fine. I was just going to say that this is not simply something that happened under Trump with the Republicans. It also happened under the Democrats after the 2008, so-called Great Recession, which was a depression, and bailing out the banks.
Well, 1 second, guys.
And that is precisely what the Obama-Biden administration did. They were terrified that the banks were going to go under and the liquidity of the system would freeze up. And I think Velshi had Austin Goolsbee on to very, very conveniently avoid that whole question about what they did and what in effect Biden is going to do. I mean, this is Biden's platform, his invisible platform. And it's one of the reasons why he's been so why there is this significant move by these never Trump Republicans to go, to support Biden. They see him as the protector of the financial system. And just to mention one or two things. There are two people that I've read a dialogue with that were on the Real News Network or something like that, and one of them is a woman named Ellen Brown, who is the leader of the
banking system,
of the public banking institute. Yeah, and the other one is Michael. Forgetting his name. He's an economist at the University of Missouri. Kansas City. It's not Butler. But anyway, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but they talk about this, this whole way in which what is happening to the real estate market is that it is another bubble that is emerging, and the real estate prices are keep going up in a situation where people don't have any money. I mean, it's just insane that because the interest rates are so low that we're getting the same dynamic as we had in 2005, 2006, 2007, and when it breaks, when the bubble bursts, the big financial institutions, the hedge funds, and all of these folks are going to clean up, because they are the ones who have the resources to get low interest loans from the financial.
The guy that you're talking about is Michael Hudson.
Hudson, that's right. Yeah. Thank you. And there was just a wonderful dialogue between the two of them on, as I say, on the Real News Network about a week ago. And Ellen Brown's position is let the banks fail.
What she talks about as well is in Dakota. You notice one of the Dakotas, they have public banking.
Yeah, North Dakota. That's right.
North Dakota, public banking.
North
and what
Dakota
is so
virtually immune from the 2008 recession.
And they suffered no problem. I'm sorry, Robbie. I forgot I interrupted Robbie actually.
You did?
Yeah, you said that you're going off on after David.
Oh no, I don't care. No, I'm listening. I mean, it's all a shell game. This is all a shell game. It's the media is used to distract the traditional media, non-independent media. But the only difference that I would say with what David is saying is that it's not only the banks and industry and corporate that are going to clean up in the elites. It is also like the secondary component, the 9%. The people who own multiple properties, who use single family housing as a wealth creator. And that in itself, don't get me wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with business. I'm a licensed real estate agent. When the problem comes in is when we don't regulate sufficiently against public interest, to the point that we have an affordability crisis, to the point that we have a homeless crisis. In essence, what we've become is taxpayers who are subsidizing wealthy people on their own, the same way that we subsidize Walmart and allow them to not pay a living wage, but we pay supplemental for medical because they don't offer it. There's no difference there. And I'm also going to disagree with you, Egberto.
That's what I was asking. I wanted to hear that. That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah.
Okay.
You froze on us.
Oh, I did?
Yeah,
I froze?
No, you're okay. I want to hear the disagreement.
So the part in terms of, when you say we went Appalachia and what happened to Mark, by the way? Tamara's having signal issues. So
yeah, Mark disappeared.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay. Tamara's having signal issues. So if there's some complication, that's what it is. The part that I disagreed is when you always, and you say this every time, and I agree in terms of uniting the, the players or the groups below the elites. But when you say that all, I guess Caucasian people or white people, however you want to phrase it, believe is that at least they're not Black. That's not, in my opinion, what I've seen. There is a level of privilege that people receive. And I'm included in that. As a light-skinned Latina, I can do things, who can pass at times that other people who cannot pass can do.
Right.
And
I agree.
Saw this, but that's not just a matter of at least I'm not Black. It's two different things. Because when we don't acknowledge,
because I think in my opinion,
because the privileges that I get are actual real action items. It's not that I feel like, well, at least I'm not Black. I get to walk into stores and not get followed. I get loans easier. I get jobs easier. People think I know more sometimes than I do easier. Simply based on what they're.
They haven't seen it. Let me tell you this way though. You're right.
Speaking Spanish.
No. You are right. Okay. What I have not done is I have not made it clear. I've used a moniker to encapsulate everything that you just said. And everything that you just said.
Egberto, people don't want to know what moniker is. Explain to people. Who's Ali Belchi? Explain.
You always do that to me, Robbie.
Because it's true. You speak in these terms that nobody knows. You say plutocracy and blah, blah, blah. And nobody knows what you're talking about except for people like you.
Perdóname. Okay, here we go. I use words sometimes as a stand-in. Okay. By when somebody say at least I am not Black, okay? When and this I've gotten from my white brothers and sisters, okay? A lot of times they would say that my family, when they say that, they're meaning, well, that I'm not Black, mean all them things that Black folk have to go through, I don't have to go through, and that is a privilege that you are speaking about.
No, actually, no, that's not, because there's an economical privilege. It's not just a matter of inconvenience. And there's a very big difference here. So, for example, there was something at least.
You're getting old.
I can't. Whatever, David or Nina, step in here while I think about what the hell.
Nina, save her, Nina.
Robbie, I don't know how to save you. Y'all are talking about things that I don't have a quick way to talk about, and I didn't even realize these were the things that were getting talked about today.
I would love to hear what you talk about, because you were there like this.
I was going to have a conversation with David, so I don't know.
Oh, well, I'll shut up. I will shut up.
No, that's okay. No, I'm interested in hearing. I'm just.
I think this is, but in some ways, this is the classic debate that we have, and it's not really it shouldn't be a debate. It needs to be a a kind of a dialectical conversation. The issue of whether racial privilege for European Americans is a benefit as opposed to a social control formation, right? A way of maintaining social control is really an important issue that I think, really the only one who has explained it, I think, is Theodore William Allen in his book, The Invention of the White Race. And much of his analysis is taken from W.B. Du Bois' Black Reconstruction. So you have
I must read those two books.
Yeah, I mean it's really crucial, and if you want to get access to it, jeffreybperry.net. Jeff is Ted's literary executor, and he was the editor of the second edition of The Invention of the White Race in 2013. It originally came out in the middle 90s, 2 volumes. So Jeffrey B. Perry Jeff has a long article that he did called The Developing Conjunction, and that's at his website. And it summarizes the thinking of Ted Allen on these questions. Now, let me just say that one of the confusions that I think goes on is that we confuse class privilege. And by that, I mean what Robbie is talking about this 9.9% that are the enablers of the corporate economic system. They're not the full beneficiaries who are the billionaires and the centimillionaires, who have all of this wealth and have the lobbying power to determine the taxation structure. But the 9.9% people who get rewarded for being the enablers of this system. Now, the rest of us pretty much constitute a working class, but it's a working class that's fractured between a privileged and an oppressed strata. And that privilege and oppression crosses to some extent between gender and racial and national lines. But one of the reasons that it's so confusing is because the 9.9% is 98% white, to use that term. And so it looks like upward mobility is this white privilege, when in fact, and this is, I think, what's so fascinating about Mark Bynum is that you can see, that there is this struggle on the part of people of color, and particularly, in his case, African Americans, to create an economic base of wealth and to spread that wealth. Now, he's not pulling up the ladder behind him, which is what the 9.9% do. They pull up the ladder. They make sure that they are a self-perpetuating, sub-elite, and what he is doing is almost the reverse of that. So I mean, I think that's really.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, Nina. I mean, let's.
I've read the books that David's talking about, and I'm trying to pull together how to say something. You all have access quickly to knowledge that I don't have in quite the same way. I don't think of myself as, oh, thank God I'm not Black. But what Robbie was saying, I do think about those things, that I am aware that there are ways I can function in the world that are not as complicated for me because I'm white. So I am aware of that. And
they're economic. Economic. It's very clear what white males, what white women make in comparison to people of color. It's the data's out there. This is not a matter of a debate at all. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nina.
I don't know.
But let me just say personal.
I did remember. So at some point, I do want to say what I was going to say because I made a note of it. Go ahead.
Please do. Please say it.
Okay, well, let me jump in while I can.
Wait, Nina's trying to say something. Nina,
go ahead, Nina. Go ahead. I'm going after Nina.
If what I just said makes that fall under the category that you were talking about of that's what you mean by thank God I'm not Black, then I guess I'm in that category. I just hadn't thought of it that way because it's not really how I think of it.
I want to respond to that, and and I think when you say things like there's some way of saying we have a something without a difference. We have a disagreement without a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even though Robbie, don't give me that look, Robbie. Come on.
We have a something without a disagreement. Nina's like I'm like, who? I'm trying to follow you guys, like listening to Alice in Wonderland. I mean,
some of the phraseology that I use, sometimes it gets to you, and I'm saying, but no, trust me, we're on the same wavelength. I mean,
no, we're not.
I think we are. I'm not.
No, we're not.
Mira, mujer.
I think we both
Okay, I want to go. We are not on the same wavelength.
Okay, I would like to hear in words, Robbie, where you think I differ from you.
How would you hear from me besides words? Tú me tienes mal.
No, I said that wrong. I mean with words.
Okay. Anyway, here's the issue. Okay, this is the bottom line. If there was not a difference economically, if it was just a matter of at least I'm not Black, at least what you're talking about is inconveniences, social constructs that can become worse, right? Getting followed in a store, having police get called on you. But there is a definitive economic component. Where we have gotten confused is that in my opinion, the 9% and the 1% have done a very, very good job of shaming poor white people into believing that it's their fault where they're at, that people have to work and pull up their bootstraps, and if you don't, this is where you'll wind up, instead of them understanding the construct of where they fall. But in essence, they are getting the scraps. Now, and they are above poor Black people and poor people of color, period. I mean, they are. There's a hierarchy there. Look at who is hired in the police. Look at who has trade. Look at who's part of unions. That is predominantly white. It is. And there is a privilege there. And what we don't often discuss is a social capital, a social currency. Who hires? You hire through word of mouth. I see this all the time among people. They hire people who they feel comfortable with when the jobs come out. So when you have a job, we all know this, then you can get credit, then you can get housing, then you can get stable, the opposite of what Mark describes. Or if you don't have that. And so until we reconcile that, until we understand that, admit it, we are not all in the same boat, period. I don't care what article came out from whoever. We are not all in the same boat, and we cannot not be allies until we understand that. And the day we understand that, then we can be allies.
All right. Let me go ahead.
Let me go first. Let me first say, first of all, absolutely everything that Robbie says, I agree with, except the portion that says, unless you understand that, you cannot be allies. And let me explain what I mean by that. Just let me explain what I mean by that. Because what you're saying is noble. What you're saying is great. What you're saying, I wish we could. Okay? But and we work in two different lanes, and we need your lane. But the lane that we have to work in as well, I think we have to hit the other lane as well. And that lane is that I am not going to get Joe Blow in Appalachia to understand all those great concepts that are true that you are saying. I won't.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Good.
Okay,
let me finish.
Okay.
But so then he can still, or he or she can still be my ally. Okay? But your statement is that you can't be an ally until, and I'm saying, no, I want you as an ally, because as I bring you in, we are going to mesh all those things that you and I know to be true.
The Democratic Party would be winning right now if what you said is true.
The Democratic Party does not believe that, ma'am. The Democratic Party is the Democratic. The left lane and the right lane. Remember,
if we could be allies without understanding social structure and social inequity and having clarity, the Democratic Party would be winning right now.
No.
The fact that we're fractured because we don't understand is the problem. I am a Latin woman. I make the least amount of money in this country. Well, not me in particular, but statistic-wise, yes, correct. If you and I can't get clear on that, or you and whoever else can't get clear on that, if you think that we're going to walk together and go kumbaya all to work it out, no, sir. No, sir.
Not.
That is what Black people are talking about when they're talking about reparations.
Right.
That is what. So until that's clear, and people like you, independent media, people like David and so on, should be discussing this to get clarity among your people, like you discussed as males.
Isn't that what you come on my show and say all of the times?
Yes, but it doesn't matter when I say it to some.
Yes, it does matter when you say it.
You carry the twigs and berries. David carries the white privilege, and and it's more effective when males talk about it. It is, and if you did a better job, you are willing to let the corporate fail, but you're not willing to let a movement fail for lack of cohesiveness.
No,
and we're not going to have allies until this happens.
Okay, let David. Then I'll come back in.
Yeah, just let's step back for a second. It is true. I agree with Robbie that it is true that there are real material, economic and power differences between European American and people of color in the working class, all right, in the working class. But here's the other side of it, all right.
Who's not in the working class? I'm lost.
That's what we need. Okay. That's a law. I just wrote a 120-page book about who's in the working class and who's not. But the point that I'm making.
Sorry to interrupt you. Where is that book?
Well, it's coming. I'm just starting to show it around.
Okay, well, wait. I want you on my show to discuss your book, brother.
Okay, all right. But the point of these real, concrete, specific differences between European American and people of color working class, and the reason I'm emphasizing working class is because all of those differences, all of those privileges, those advantages that Robbie, you were talking about, do not get European American working class people out of the working class. They remain part of the working class. They are exploited by capital and by capitalists. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so no doubt, but predominantly 90% of homeless people are people of color. So yes, that's true. That they don't have a living wage, that they don't have medical, that but they have a home. They're not.
Yes, and the point that I'm making here is simply that there is a distinction to be made between racial oppression and racial privilege on the one hand, and exploitation by capital on the other. And it's a crucial distinction, because that's where Egberto can reach out, Egberto, Nina can reach out to what he's calling Appalachians, but those folks, poor whites, are all over the country, and that's the way to reach them, is to say, these privileges, these little advantages that you are getting, they don't seem so little when you're oppressed, when you're part of the oppressed, section of the working class. They are significant and a big deal, but their main function is not to give goodies to poor European American whites. Their function is to maintain control over the whole system. And when you're talking about the Democratic Party, Robbie, one of the things that you're talking about is the fact that the Democratic Party is still controlled by the big financial interests. All right. And
they're also, I'm sorry, but they're also ignorant. Look at what Biden just said. Look at what just came out about the article. If Biden is the front runner, if he's the Democratic darling, and he's out there saying Black people are not as diverse as Latino people, and he thinks that's smart to do right now while we're trying to beat Trump.
That statement that Biden took. We are both Latin people, okay? Mm-hmm. And if we put a picture of you and me together, the first thing people think is big difference. If you put a picture between me and Tamara,
same thing for Black people. They're light-skinned Black people. There's a lot of Black people.
Let me give me a chance to say this is important because I wrote about that one. I
know. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I did a whole piece on that one, and here's what I mean. You put who has more in common, you and me, or me and Tamara? You see, I'm the hybrid, right? I'm the Black Latino, and Tamara is the Black African American. Okay, here's the thing. If somebody is just looking at us, me and Tamara look the same. If somebody are looking at us culturally, who like the sancocho and all that kind of stuff, you and I look alike, but they don't see that. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. What Biden was trying to put together, and the reason, if you have to listen to the whole 2 minutes, and I don't like Biden, you know that, but also I don't like people being misinformed. You know I don't like people being misinformed either.
But how dumb do you have to be to give that?
I don't even know what you're talking about. What is this thing that Biden said?
Let me tell you what Biden said. Biden says that the Latin community is not like the African American community, except for certain instances. In other words, the African American community is more homogeneous than the Latin community, which is very true. And let me explain what I mean. If you notice, he didn't say Black people, he said African American, right? And they were talking about was, why is Cuba getting people sent back while Venezuela is getting a different treatment, while Mexico is getting a different treatment? And he was trying to illustrate that all these different countries, there are different realities for these different countries, which is true. Puerto Riqueña versus Mexicana. We can look at all these, and they're distinct.
Wow, I'm so tired. Anyway.
Oh, don't say that. We're going to have to talk after the show.
No, it's fine. Look at Africa. Look at all the countries in Africa. And what bothers me about it is, again, how stupid, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be really rude about it. How stupid is Biden to open up that landmine right now? Does he want to lose? Does he want to lose? Does he want us to wind up with Trump? And if that's the best the Democratic Party has, and it is, okay, that's who they put out in front. Yes. We are up the creek. We are up the creek.
Biden, if you saw all the stuff that I wrote about Biden before and what I feared, I think the coronavirus was the best thing to happen to Biden because he can stay in the basement. Okay. Now, here's the thing. The thing about it is, Robbie, we can't get upset of what we know we have to change. One of the reasons you are doing what you do, but all of us are doing what we do, is we know what the Democratic Party is. We know what the progressive movement is. We know all of that. They're not going to change until we make them change.
Okay, but the bottom line is saying that African Americans or Black people are not diverse is insane. There are multiple subgroups among African Americans, and that is insane that a presidential candidate in this time of crisis would say something that stupid.
Look, again, what I would
love to know. Go ahead.
In the context of those 2 minutes, the problem is when you can extract a little piece, it makes a difference.
He wasn't briefed to not do.
Robbie, let him finish.
Yeah, in the context of 2 minutes, that's the problem. When what Biden was talking, they were talking about the difference in all. How comes you are subdividing Latinos like that? Is pretty much what he's saying. And what Biden was trying to say is, unlike African Americans, and remember, the one that got. I said Tamara is here. The one that remember what Tamara told me right here on the show. You are not ADOS, right? Yes. So it is something that's done, right? And all Biden said, and I think there's a lot more we should be getting on Biden than for that one statement, which is, which is the reason why we always get stagnant, because we worry about those kind of bad articulation of things where Biden is really bad at much other things, not that. But that thing about Biden is a racist, we know that. But that statement that he made, between African Americans and Latinos was really true.
It's baffling to me because I see, Afro Latinos, I see ADOS, I see African Americans that are lower income, higher income. I see African Americans from the South. I see African Americans from the North. I see African Americans from other countries that are second here. But that's a whole layered of African Americans, and to say that there's not diversity among African Americans is
what he was saying.
Okay, well, I'll have to watch the whole thing. I will. I'll read the article.
Listen to the whole 2 minutes.
I'm sorry. I need to intervene here because one of the things that Nina and I were going to discuss in this hour was the issue of how European Americans can change, can transform themselves. And that was really what we have usually been able to discuss when we're on together and having a conversation. So I hope Nina will come back and maybe have that conversation where we begin to develop a theory and a practice about how to do what Egberto is saying is what both of you are saying is possible. Because when Robbie says, well, you can't be allies, first of all, I don't want to be an ally. As the Native American movement in New Mexico says, we don't want allies, we want accomplices.
Yes.
So the difference between those two is the question of solidarity.
Yes.
And solidarity comes out of common interests, not making a deal. So the common interests that European American working people have with non-European American, with people of color who are working people, is that they are both exploited by the same group, by the same class. And if you can reach them, if you can reach people like me and Nina on the basis of their exploitation, which is why it is important to understand the political economy of the banks and the 0.1% and the 9.9% is really, really crucial. And that's what I mean. I'm here talking, and I'm taking up time that I would like to have Nina respond to, because it's it seems to me that we always get into this dead end conversation, which is that both sides acknowledge is real. I mean, I don't know, Robbie. I mean, do you think that there are exploited European American people that are, that are workers who don't have any property of their own, who are
yes, but that's not you, David.
What?
Yes, I do. But you don't fall in that category. And I also feel a little awkward because we're all adults and we can speak when we want to. So I'm sorry that the program didn't go, but I've even sat quietly in the back to wait for it. But it's also to the point that it's awkward with people on on the show. So, I mean,
I've got no objection to the way that things went and talking. I just was expecting something different. And I bring something different to this. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not a CEO of anything. I am a white woman who's older, who has a studio art degree, and who teaches yoga. So how's that?
I need some yoga.
Sounds good to me.
I need to learn to bend myself up in better hoops.
My main point is that I don't know what I can bring to this conversation when it is focused the way it has been, in areas that are just not really something I can articulate on very quickly. So I'm listening, not because I feel excluded or offended or anything like that. It's just, I don't even know how to talk about those things. I know
actually, if I may interject, actually, and I tell people this all of the times, right? Because I get, in all these shows, that's what we get. We get a lot of listeners, people listening, and people learning. Every place that I go to, I learn, right? And let me give an example. What Robbie calls a disagreement generally for me, it's a learning experience. I learned to make that a learning experience. In other words, I learned that if disagreements occur, I need to find out exactly if like I told her, I don't think we have a disagreement. So then I need to figure out, okay, how do I articulate to her? Because if Robbie feels a certain way, that means there are 100,000 people that feels exactly like her. Now, you as a white woman coming on and listening to our to listen to Tamara's show, right? You're going to also pick up a whole lot of stuff, whether you're actually talking or not. I mean, that is just how communication. That is just how communication works, and why I love these platforms.
Hold on a second, because Nina's leaving out a very, very important part of her life, which is that she was a worker for decades, at her
nonprofit world, which you talk about being exploited.
What's that? Say again.
In nonprofit world. So
yeah, nonprofit.
Oh yeah, I know about that.
And before that, she worked as a cafeteria worker. She's done
factories, so I know about some of that exploitation too.
Yeah. So where to say that, for her, I mean, she's kind of hiding her light under a bushel when she's.
I don't know what is meaningful to say at this point. That's all.
No,
I'm listening. I always learn things. If you were seeing me in a group of people in a living room, I'd still be the quiet person, and then I'd eventually speak up because I'm taking these things in and I'm trying to figure out what do I want to say.
That is actually a good thing, because I tell you what I tell folks, and Robbie should know that this from my show. I like people to leave their inhibitions, including saying the things that possibly they think would offend, because I think one of the things that slows down progress is not being able to say what you want to say, and because you feel you have to hold back. I don't know what your inner being is. Robbie don't know what your inner being is. David, Tamara, so I think I like to. Once you can have civil discourse, it is okay to take out all those things that's in your head, because that's the only way they can change if they're wrong, right? If Robbie finds something wrong in my head, the only way I can know it's wrong if Robbie tells me, right, Robbie?
I personally, I don't think it's a dead end conversation. I think it's a conversation some people don't want to have, but whatever. Go ahead, Nina.
As a person working, that I have worked for really very low wages without even understanding sometimes how low the wages were I was working for. At the same time that I know a lot of white people do make a lot more money. So it feels a little awkward for me to be speaking up and saying, my personal experience is this, when I know it's not the usual experience of a much broader section of white people. So there's that about being reluctant to say something. At the same time that I know how little money I've made for the years that I've worked.
Yeah, let me just summarize a little bit about what I think needs to be defined or distinguished, because we're right at the top of the hour, and I'm going to take my host privilege here of summarizing. There is a difference between oppression and privilege on the one hand, and exploitation on the other. There are people who are in the working class who are privileged and exploited. Okay, it's a contradictory position, and it's that position of being privileged, racially privileged, and exploited that is at the heart of how this system works. It works on the basis of creating a whole systemic inequality within the working class, on the basis of gender and race and national oppression as well, and the illusion that's created among European Americans.
Hello. Whoops.
Is from the working class, and Egberto called it antiseptic slavery. and I think that's a useful term. It's also the illusion of upward mobility that comes from lateral mobility. So what Nina is saying is similar to what I experienced as an out of tenure stream academic, which is so anyway. The point that I'm making is that if we can see that those things are a real world contradiction, then we can begin to think about how we can achieve solidarity across this privileged and oppressed, boundary, and not just simply throw people away who could potentially be, part of a real, a revolution, a real shift in power. So yeah, Robbie, it's certainly possible that this country could go through a revolution in which almost no white people participate whatsoever, or they participate on the other side.
Or they participate in hazardous ways. Let me tell you what I've witnessed on a micro level, and this has been my personal experience, which I can attest to, which I've personally witnessed, which as an adult, I can step in and discuss it at any time. That being said, here in City of Atlanta, on a micro level, which is an example of a macro level, I have seen people of privilege, predominantly white people and upper class Black people, come in these divested areas where people don't have the resources to protect themselves, take over neighborhood associations by using white tears, shutting down conversations of people of color, nonprofits coming in, predominantly white, funded by Christian white people, acquiring all these properties for their people who are coming to live among the poor when the poor people can't buy them. And on top of it, then they utilize the funding intended for poor people of color to elevate themselves, their nonprofits, and their businesses. And that is done not with bad intention. That is actually done with good intention. But that's what happens when you don't understand structural hierarchy. You come here with good intentions and you trash the people and send them packing with good intentions. It happened with the Trail of Tears, and it's happening today. So until we get clear and we have the difficult conversations, whether we believe they're going nowhere, it is what it is. Thank you for letting me speak, David.
You get the last word, Robbie.
I'm done now.
Yeah. Well, we're done. I mean, it's as far as I know, we're at the top of the hour. I don't know whether we have any more time than we can use.
Great
so,
show.
Guys, it was a pleasure being here as usual, and the conversation is always great and hot. Thank you so kindly for having me on the show.
Ciao.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Robbie. I'm not sure what we're doing here, or where's Tamara, whether she's going to end this thing. So anyway, I hope we'll get a chance to do more of this conversation. And I mean, we'll get on together, and carry this
unity. Say it with me, unity. Unity. Say it with me, unity. Unity. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy, your candidate for the United States Senate. Say it with me again, unity. Unity. I hear you, my Latino brothers and sisters. I hear you.
Oops. Okay. Well,
on the show, so just so you know, we're still live.
Yeah, we're still live. Yeah, I don't know how we're what the etiquette is at this point.
Well, I see there's a button here that says leave studio, so I can probably do that. And
yeah, I can too. But if there's anything you'd like to, any thoughts you want to leave with,
No, I mean, it was interesting to listen to. It just, I felt totally out of my league. That's it. I just felt totally out of my league. I don't know how to talk about those things in those kinds of ways. And so I just didn't have anything to contribute to that conversation, not because it troubled me or anything of that. I just I couldn't even articulate a thought. So it wasn't a matter at all of feeling that I was being shut out or excluded or anything. I just felt totally out of my league. That's all. So that's my thought.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that there's a I'm looking for words to describe what I've been thinking about, which is how do we develop a politics, that draws people in who feel like politics is not their area of expertise, or never mind that, it's just what you were saying. You feel like you're out of your depth, or out of your league, to be able to think about it. And I think it's really, really important, if we're going to have a real connection between the folks who want us to go out and vote and do all of these other things, and the folks who say, well, this is just not within my realm of experience. It's something that I don't know how to talk about in those terms, right? But if we talked about your experience as a working person, we would have a lot of area or field to explore, and to think about the ways in which your immediate personal experience over the course of a number of decades has all of these implications and connections. So it's a matter of drawing on on the experience, and connecting it with the experience of other people who are in the same position. I mean, the two of us, I was just thinking about this, but the two of us have been in what might be called prestige jobs. I mean, you worked for a nonprofit as a person who was in effect a teacher, and doing things that were, and I'm a college professor who, on average, probably over the course of 25 years, made $12,000 a year.
Yeah, when I tell people what my wages were for doing the work I did after the number of years I was working, most of the time, if I get to the point of saying that, the response I get is, you were working as a volunteer, basically, or that sort of thing. And I didn't even understand it while I was actually working. I mean, it didn't seem fair to me, but there are all these things about not talking about salaries with other people, whether it's a formal policy